January on the actual costing proposal. And tonight we're here just to discuss the OPP billing model. So it's not going to be as long, which is probably a good thing. It's going to be relatively short. But we will cover off the OPP billing model. And just to provide you with a bit of an overview, it can be a little complicated. So I will try my best to break it down for you. And as I say, if there's anything, any questions, are for sure chime in at any time. Or if you want to leave it to the end, that's perfectly fine. So again, the objective here is to discuss the billing model. Just to keep everyone as a reminder, when municipalities do make that decision, if they make that decision to go to the OPP, again, they go into that, what we had termed as the transition contract. This billing model does not come into play until after that transition contract is finished. So just as a reminder for people, this would be for municipalities who are already into the billing model and who are not under that transition contract situation. So a bit of an outline. We'll cover off a bit of the OPP annual expenditures, provide some details, give you some numbers, and we'll go into the billing model components. So these figures are based on the 2017-2018 actuals. And this pie chart, in essence, provides a good overview or a good snapshot of where the money is allocated to in OPP budgets. And just to break it down a little further here, so 65% of the money allocated, again, this is 2017-2018, it's for provincial and specialized responsibilities. So all those services there, and those are provincially mandated services that we have to provide and do provide. Such things as traffic safety, investigation, specialized investigations, intelligence, specialized response teams, so those tactics and rescue unit, the helicopter, K9 units, all sorts of stuff like that. And then we have the other side, which is again the municipal policing side of the house, and that makes up approximately 35%. And again, under this, these are the municipal policing resources section. These are the costs for municipal policing that are recovered from municipalities. And this includes the frontline detachment staff and the support positions that are required to meet the service demands. So there's a lot of stuff on this slide, but basically to give you a bit of context as why the OPP billing model was brought into being. The reality is prior to January 1st, 2015, we were operating under the old system. And there was a lot of issue taken up over the fact there was a number of issues, but one of the main issues was there was a wide variance in cost. So you had properties where, or you had municipalities where the per property cost could be anywhere from as low as $34 up to $895 per property. And so the idea was bringing this model in just to level the playing field. The Auditor General in 2012, he had a report, and I guess there were a number of concerns that were basically highlighted. And the recommendation was, there were two main ones. One was seek ways to simplify and make more transparent the OPP's cost recovery methods. And also to address issues in the billing method that resulted in municipalities paying vastly different rates. So on January 1st, 2015, the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services introduced this new model for recovering policing costs from OPP municipal policing areas. And you'll see there were a number of consultations made, not only government ministries, but as well as municipalities themselves, municipal associations. And out of those consultations, again, this model came into being. So the billing model includes an equal base per property cost, and the other half essentially is a variable charge for calls for service that is based on the municipality's individual usage. Now there are other costs as well that are lumped into this, and I will get to explain those as we go along here. So the important thing to remember here is that, those two words underlined, provincially focused. So the OPP billing model is provincially focused, meaning it is based on the services that we provide to all municipalities that we recover policing costs from. So it divides the majority of the municipal OPP policing activities into two main categories, as you can see here. Base policing services, and then the other side is the calls for service, which is a variable usage type of category. So basic policing services here, as you can see, are what's listed there, and in essence they're the bricks and mortar of policing. These are the costs that are allocated amongst municipalities on an equal per property basis. It covers legislated activities such as crime prevention, general and directed patrol, officer availability to respond to emergency calls. It includes proactive patrol, ride programs, community policing, traffic safety, officer training and administrative duties, and all inspector and staff sergeant positions within those detachments. Then we have the calls for service. Again, these costs are allocated to municipalities based on their individual usage level. And these are the reactive calls that typically require an officer's attendance. Such things as thefts, motor vehicle collisions, assaults, general service calls, alarms, missing persons, provincial statutes, Mental Health Act, Trespass to Property Act. And then at the bottom there you can see the additional costs which are allocated to municipalities, and they're billed on their specific usage for those municipalities. So those things would be things such as overtime, court security, for those municipalities who actually have courts within your jurisdiction, and I believe Shelburne does not, so that would not actually apply. Cleaning and caretakers and accommodation for those municipalities who do not provide their own building, and enhancements as well, and prisoner transportation. All municipalities pay for prisoner transportation on a per property cost. So the total cost of base services allocated amongst municipalities is on an equal per property basis, and we use Municipal Property Assessment Corporation data, or MPAC data. The counts include households as well as commercial and industrial properties, and these counts are updated annually. So for example, for 2019, the numbers are based on the 2017 year-end numbers for the 2018 taxation year. That's what we base the MPAC numbers on. Now this can get a little complicated in terms of explaining the calls for service side of the billing. But we'll try to break it down here with this pie chart. To understand how the OPP calculates the cost for calls for service, and again, I'm going to use this chart for illustration purposes. Each one of those pieces of pie is a representative of a municipality. Of course, we have many more municipalities as are represented here, so this is just for illustration purposes. So let's consider the pie chart as representing the total waited time calculated for the entire province, okay? And these are for municipalities that receive OPP policing services in a given year. So for example, for 2019, right now, we are estimated at 1.6 million calls for service hours. Again, this is for all the municipalities that are policed by the OPP, and that's at a cost of $156 million. So each municipality is represented by a single piece of this pie. As a reminder, these costs are allocated to municipalities based on their individual usage level. So a municipality pays a proportionate share of the total cost of the municipal calls for service calculated for all OPP placement municipalities. This is calculated based on weighted time standards applied to a 4-year rolling average of the number of calls for service. So for 2019, this would be based on the average calls of service for the years, from the years 2014 to 2017. And again, that just rolls along as you proceed along. And primarily that's used for controlling costs to have it less volatile. If you have spikes from year to year, again, conceivably you have costs that would be spiking as well, but the average allows less volatility in terms of costs. So again, for illustration purposes, as represented by the green slice, this particular municipality's proportionate share, and let's use an example here, is the weighted time is actually calculated at 0.4984%, again, of that total from the province. So 0.4984% equals 7,997 hours, which translates into a total of $781,000 of calls for service costs for that municipality for that given year. For the 2019 cost recovery under the billing model, this chart breaks down the total municipal cost recovery into the various cost components. And again, this is for 2019 estimates. So we're using the rounded figures here. The total cost recovery for OPP police municipalities is $410 million. And this is divided into the following. As you can see, for base services, that's $216 million. The calls for service component is $156 million. And then other costs are $38 million. So those would be the ones listed there: overtime, court security, prisoner transportation. And again, as a reminder, this is for all municipalities that we police in the province. So this chart provides a historical summary of both total cost recoveries for OPP municipal policing, which you can see in blue, and then the average cost per property for OPP police municipalities that you can see in red. As you can see there, for 2019, the average cost per property for OPP police municipalities is $359. Now that's the base and calls for service combined. So as one can see, you can see that the cost per property have been relatively stable for the last number of years. So as noted, since the inception of the billing model in 2015, recoveries have increased by approximately 4.3%, with an annualized increase of 0.86%. Now, keep in mind, the primary drivers behind the increase, at the blue indicators there that of the total cost recoveries, the primary drivers for those are increase in salaries, as well as increase in the number of properties that are policed by the OPP. So additional cost components. So overtime. Municipalities are billed for overtime from occurrences in their geographic area, and a portion of their detachment overtime not linked to any specific municipality, which is training and administrative duties. Overtime recoveries are limited to municipal detachment staff, and it excludes overtime incurred for provincial obligations. So for instance, if you have a major occurrence that requires a number of provincially mandated units, as I indicated a few slides in with those specialty units, helicopter, canine, tactical team, those specialty units, those overtime is not incurred by the municipality. Those would fall under their units' obligations. So for court security, again, just for your information, because again, I know there's no courthouse in Shelburne, but for municipalities that do have a courthouse, they are responsible under the Police Services Act to provide court security, and there's a cost to that. And that wouldn't apply here. Prisoner transportation. The total cost of providing prisoner transportation across the province is determined based on the cost of the municipal FTEs providing the service and allocated to all municipalities on an equal per property basis. Accommodation and cleaning. These charges do not apply to municipalities that have their own accommodation or cleaning services. The municipal portion of the cost of provincially owned detachment facilities is allocated to municipalities on an equal per property basis. And dedicated enhancements. So for Section 10 contract municipalities, and again, there's a bit of a difference. Right now, currently, there are in essence, with OPP police municipalities, you have two streams, for lack of a better term, I guess. The first one is Section 10 municipalities who actually sign a written contract that can be anywhere from 3 to 6 years. And then you have the other stream, which is what we call a non-contract location. And they have, basically, as it's indicated, there's no contract with the OPP, and we simply provide the services. Now, the only difference, there's no difference in terms of cost recovery. The cost is essentially the same. But if you are in a contract situation with the OPP, you do have a number of options for a few, shall we say, extra things, such as possibilities for contract enhancements. So if municipalities do see a need to consider an enhanced position, keep in mind that the enhanced positions are not designed to boost the front line of the actual detachment. It would be to specifically address a specific need that the municipality sees as a concern. So for example, traffic safety, school resource officer, that would be up to the municipality to understand what their issues were, and then in consultation with the OPP there would be a possibility of considering an enhancement. As well as there's options for applying for certain grants under a section, if you have a Section 10 contract. That's essentially it for enhancements. I just want to draw your attention to these online resources. Again, they're very helpful, particularly if you see the top link, the OPP billing model. This, again, will give you a lot more information on what I've provided and presented to you tonight. There's a number of charts and a number of information on there that gives you a bit more of a background, a bit more information. But again, those are always helpful resources to tap into. And other than that, that is essentially it. I'm open to any sort of questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Are there any questions from council members? Walter.
On the enhancements that you were speaking about, the school resource officer. So if we were to ask for an officer for the high school, for example, like currently we have 4 times a week, that's an enhancement?
No, that's not an enhancement. That would be included in the base service in essence. And again, I can't give you specific details, but I know, again, in some municipalities, they have a dedicated officer to address, full-time in the schools. Again, that would be an enhanced position, but when if you want an officer throughout as you say, throughout the week, every now and again to check in, that wouldn't be normally considered an enhancement.
And going on with the enhancement, if we want a traffic officer other than the 2 or whatever patrols we currently have in the town, those are considered enhancements if we want to control certain streets that have traffic issues, correct? That thought process?
Again, not necessarily. I mean, the idea is the base service should cover that, right? I mean, base service includes, and again, I won't go back to the slide, but the base service includes providing traffic safety, traffic enforcement. Sorry, go back. Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I
yeah. But in some areas you might have, a 2 or 3 person unit that goes and again, within a certain municipality will target certain areas, and I mean, they would obviously be open and respond to certain specific complaints. But at least I want to make it very clear that enhancements aren't designed to, I guess, like I say, bolster the front line. Again, frontline duties, the expectation in the base services include the necessity for us to provide traffic safety as one of those obligations, if that makes sense.
Okay. And one more question if I can. We have events, festivals, whatnot, where we close the highways. Would that fall under the base, or would that be something else?
Linda, I would think that would be included.
I'm just not sure if I understand the question. So if you're closing the highway,
Yeah.
you're basically just having officers there to reroute?
Yes.
So depending on the detachment commander, you would liaise with them and let them know what was going on. If there was sufficient staff on duty, then they would just arrange for that to happen. If for some reason there wasn't sufficient staff on duty, they could arrange to either have staff come in, or it could be considered a paid duty, depending on how the municipality and the detachment commander both thought it would be best to handle.
Okay.
And I might just add for clarification, because we've been talking a lot about the school resource officer, and whether it's an enhancement or whether it's not. Technically, no municipality needs enhancements. School resource positions are provided in a normal detachment setting. It's just they're not doing it every single hour of their shift. They're participating and going to the schools and visiting the schools, but on another portion of their shift, they might be responding to calls. Enhancements are when you want someone dedicated 100% to doing that particular function. Same with traffic safety or patrolling on roads. That's part of a police officer's job and part of a detachment commander's responsibility to make sure that gets done. But you don't necessarily have someone doing it for their entire shift 40 hours a week. They're also responding to calls for service. The enhancement is when you want someone dedicated to that in your municipality only. That's why you would be paying extra for an enhancement, if that helps at all.
So for example, one of the local schools, Primrose, is located in Mulmer Township, which is policed by OPP. So there are officers from the detachment that go and do programs at Primrose periodically.
Yep, we have a school resource officer right now. She's multiple hats. She wears media officer, and she teaches the OPP Kids program as well as a number of other programs. So she has a set curriculum that she teaches at each school, elementary school, and then she goes and does other presentations on demand or as seen fit by the schools ask her if she can do it. But she also has a number of other responsibilities.
And Mulmer Township would not be billed as an enhancement
That's
for
correct.
that service, is what you're saying? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. But if we wanted somebody whose sole job was to be a school resource officer, then that would be an
That would be there every day from 8 till 4:30, and if there was something that broke, that went crazy, and they wouldn't be responding to calls for service, they'd be staying there at the school, possibly, depending on the nature of the situation, but their focus is specifically that one task. That's what an enhancement does. But all of these services are provided at various different levels through a normal detachment. There is traffic safety, there are officers visiting schools. It's just they're not doing it for 40 hours a week.
Walter?
Foot patrols are not part of base service.
Yes, they are. Patrolling is
Yes.
part of base service.
So we would have foot patrols throughout the town as well.
Yeah, and it'd be important to communicate that obviously through, the usual method would be through your police services board to liaise with the detachment commander to identify those issues and such things as foot patrol. But for sure, that's considered base.
You had mentioned, Ken, that the average cost per household in Ontario this year is, I think it was $359. That's across the board, across the province. Now, I'm assuming there's a big range there given the size and nature of communities. Is there any way to kind of drill down and see what a closer comparator might be to a town like Shelburne? I'm assuming a rural municipality would be a lot cheaper to police than a town like ours.
Yeah, and it depends again from municipality to municipality. I can't give you direct figures right now, and I can certainly send you the link, but they're all online. So again, that link, I think at the end, so the top one, oppa.ca/billing model. If you go in, there's actually a link that gives you all the OPP police municipalities in the entire province. You can actually, I believe it's on an Excel spreadsheet, is it not? So you can actually sort and filter. And so you can go in and actually sort and filter specific municipalities all over the province and see over the last, I believe it's 3 or 4 years.
And it will list the number of properties, so you can pick one with similar characteristics.
And it'll give you per property cost, it'll give you their annual costs, and all that information to make those comparisons.
One other question, at the initial presentation that was delivered in January, Staff Sergeant Crandall discussed a little bit about how the zone model would work. So if Shelburne did go OPP, there would be I think a 4th zone designated within Dufferin County, sort of unto ourselves. So Shelburne proper would become a new zone. Can you just explain again how that zone system works, like in terms of deployment? So what are the residents of Shelburne going to see on a day-to-day basis in terms of the presence of officers?
So it'd be the town, as its boundaries are, as they exist right now, would be the boundaries of Zone 4. So we have 3 existing zones now. Mono and Mulmer is in Zone 1, Melanchthon and Amaranth is Zone 2, and Grand Valley, East Garifraxa, and East Luther are in Zone 3. So they're separated out by municipal codes, and then at the beginning of each shift, or however the sergeants determine for the day or the week, officers are assigned to patrol in that zone. So they're given their daily assignments, be it proactive policing or follow-up, and then they work within their zone. Sometimes they would have to leave their zone to go to court, or if there's a big call on the highway and I need a bunch of resources, then they would leave to go and do the call on the highway and then come back. For example, if something happened out on 89, right at First Line or something, and they would come back. But basically, for the purposes of operations, the officers would be assigned within the town to work in the town. And then they would be assigned to do their foot patrol, their community policing, the follow-up, or whatever the case may be. But they would be just like the other zones. The officers are assigned every day to the zone. And then some platoons the officers prefer to work the same zone all the time to get to know the people. Other officers prefer to work one zone for a month, another zone for another month to get to know the whole community. Is that helpful?
And how many officers would be dedicated to each zone for a given shift? I mean, I understand you say they may have to move around, but
3.
Or hold on a second, let me just double check that, because I think it was 2 actually, now that the original presentation. It was 5, plus I just had that org chart. It was 2 officers in that zone. Because you would currently have,
so at the start of a shift, 2 officers would be deployed to Zone 4, which would be Shelburne, and they would stay there for the duration of the shift unless, as you said, you needed them,
Correct.
somewhere else for an accident or something.
Correct. I can use an example, and I have Staff Sergeant Sanderson here. I can use the example of Bolton in Caledon. So Caledon is separated also into 4 zones, and the town of Bolton itself is Zone 4. So they have a staggered shift pattern there because there's more officers assigned. It's a bigger community. So what happens is the officers stay in Bolton until the next shift officers get there, and then those shift officers come back, and there's a little bit of overlap. And so there's always somebody in town. It'd be a little bit harder to have them all here and do that shift alignment, but we just have one officer or a team, however it's going to work out, so that you have people here in town all the time.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Walter?
Yeah, police checks right now are done here in the town. If they wanted, a citizen of the town wanted to do a police check, they'd have to go to Primrose, am I correct in that thought, to the detachment office?
For now?
No, if we went OPP.
Yes.
If we were to go OPP, they would have to go to Primrose. Am I correct in that thought process?
For now. However, there is a change coming in the provincial criminal record check process, and at some point in the near future, no one will have to go to the police station to do it. You'll be able to do it online.
Like you do Service Ontario.
Pardon me?
Like Service Ontario, you can do everything online.
Correct, yeah. So people who want a criminal record check would have to have access to a computer, and they can make their application online.
Part of council's public engagement process, so that's going to go live Wednesday morning, and it will run until May 31st. So in addition to next Wednesday's meeting, please, by all means, sign up for the survey, get on there, express your thoughts. Is there going to be a place to ask questions on there, or is it just to offer comments? Okay, so survey with set questions, and then also an opportunity to offer any free style comments that you may want to make. All right, so I think we'll take about a 5-minute break, and we'll reconvene in the council chambers for the balance of the meeting. Thanks very much.
All right, so the second presentation is Al Whitmer to discuss the 12th annual Jennifer Whitmer Memorial Term.
Thank you, Mayor. For all the new faces that are on the table that don't know me, my name is Al Whitmer. I bought a business here in 1973, moved my family here in 1974. I still live at the same house, 418 Pineview Gardens. And the population at the time was 1,127. We had a reeve, not a mayor. We had a police chief and 2 officers. I'm not here to speak about them tonight, I'm here to speak about my daughter's opportunities. My daughter grew up here, went to school here. Ryerson, came back home, worked for the wetland, worked for 19 years and took cancer. He had cancer and died at the age of 40. You might know my son. He's a police officer in town. Some of you may have already met him. He's been here quite a few years too. Anyway, after my daughter died, the girls on her hockey team in Honeywood decided to do something in her memory. And 11 years ago, it'll be 12 this April, 11 years ago they formed a hockey team and called themselves the Honeywood Hockey Monks. And we've been going ever since. This year we hope to raise $65,000, which will put us over $600,000 in the 12 years we've had this tournament. It's been a real battle, but the town and the surrounding area have been fantastic to us. And I thought over all the years that I've had this tournament, thank you, that the town of Shelburne would not give out donations. But lo and behold, last year when we had the fiasco with Fiddle Park, the mayor made a presentation of $1,550, I believe, to the Feral Cat Lady. And I said to myself, my wife died of cancer, my daughter died of cancer, lots of my friends in the past year died of cancer, and there's still very many people needing treatment. And therefore, I think my people are worth more than a feral cat. Anyway, we're holding the tournament this coming next weekend. 4, 5, and 6, Thursday night, Friday, all day Saturday. We have 16 teams, 15 to a team. We'll have more population in the arena than the village of Honeywood. There's no doubt about that. Honeywood Arena in Mulmer has been terrific for us over the 12 years. Very little charges, all we pay for is ice time. Nothing for the building, nothing for the canteen, just pay for the ice. Now that ice this year is coming to $5,000. So, I'm in charge of Shelburne, since I had a business here for 35 years. The last 25 years was in this empty building right across the road. The first 5 years was a Royal Real Estate, it was a Stedman store. So, since I knew almost all the people that had these businesses, I was very able to talk to them and raise quite a bit of cash. So, you are my second last call. So I'm not asking you for $1,550. I'm not asking you for $500. I'm asking you to get us, or donate to us, ice time, which is $175 an hour. And I would appreciate that. So if you have any questions, I won't take much more of your time.
Any questions from council for Mr. Woodward? So, have I heard correctly that this is going to be the last year?
This is the last year. Yeah. There's 14 girls on my daughter's team, and we're down to 6. And it's very difficult to cook. These players for 3 days don't pay a cent for food. We supply the breakfast, the lunch, the dinners. Everything is donated by the town here and the surrounding area. So, I mean, they pay $650 to be in the tournament, and they must have $100 pledges besides that. So, yeah, that's how we raise our money. And it will be the last year because we don't have help.
Well, be willing to entertain a motion. Walter, discuss the need for it.
For those who don't know, my son had cancer 10 years ago, and he went through 2 years of cancer treatment. And believe me, the treatment he went through burned his veins basically up. And he had a lot of issues after that. He still has issues today resulting from the treatment, but he is cancer-free. So I'm going to write a motion, and I hope somebody will second it. I know you asked for $175 for ice time, but I think we can donate a little more out of our grant fund, and I'm going to write a motion for $250 from the town, so I hope somebody will second that.
I might add that the day my wife died, and we were burying her, was the day the doctor phoned and told my daughter to be in the hospital the next morning. She had cancer of the breast. My wife died of cancer of the lungs because she was a smoker. And remember that 1 in 5 of either one of those 2 diseases died. Doesn't matter, everybody has a mother, a sister, a brother. You can all get cancer. My daughter had 66 radiation treatments. If you want to see a potato chip on a body, that's what to see. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'll make sure you get a receipt.
Well, thank
Hang on one second.
Yeah. It's gotta be passed. Somebody asked what the 40 is for. The date, it's the age my daughter died.
I'll mention too, Al served on Shelburne District Economic Development Committee for
22 years,
2 years.
5 years on the Shelburne Hydro Commission, when we had a hydro commission.
Okay, so motion moved by Councilor Donato, second by Councilor Buffett. Be it resolved, the council receives the presentation from Mr. Whipper and that we donate $250 for the Jennifer Whipper Memorial Tournament from our community grant fund. Steve, question?
Yeah, Mr. Whipper, if you don't mind, what would be the cost to keep it running? Or is it your preference at this stage to wind it down? I'm just curious.
Steve, I don't have any control over that. That's my son-in-law. And the committee, the 6 or 7 girls that are left on the committee, they have an executive. They had a meeting back in November of this past year and just decided, I have no idea what it would cost, really. There's very little cost to us in this tournament, other than ice time and favors we give to the hockey girls. This year they're getting goblets with the name on it and everything, and so I could find out for you, but I have no idea, really. Yeah.
Okay,
I know ice is $5,000.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think one of his main concerns was volunteers. I think your volunteers are doing going
So all volunteers, yeah. Every penny goes back to the hospital. in Orangeville for people that cannot afford to drive. When my daughter was sick, we had to drive to Princess Margaret or Credit Valley. So now they have help that they can go to Orangeville Hospital to the cancer clinic there. And even the girls in the office at the hospital volunteer their time at the hockey tournament, taking donations and running receipts.
So you said an hour's ice time is
175.
If the mover and seconder would consider a friendly amendment, I would suggest increasing the amount from 250 to 350, round it up, cover two full hours of ice time. Is that okay with that?
Thank you, thank you.
Speaking about going out, this market, that's pretty expensive tripping going back and forth, isn't it? And I did it for 2 years with my cost.
All right, any further questions, comments, Rob? All right, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Next
Do you want me to pick the check up here, or will you put it on the website, or?
Do an e-transfer to your account.
The only reason I say that, I got jury duty on April the 1st, so I'm trying to get all the angles cleaned up here.
How long will it take us?
We can do it for you tomorrow. I'll
Okay.
call you
I appreciate
when it's
it.
ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you, council.
Thanks, Al.
Good luck on your next
Can you
stop.
hold your sign up, please?
I'll hold my sign up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
So
much.
the next section is council inquiries. So again, just as a refresh, this is a new section we've added to the agenda. It's an opportunity for any member of council to highlight upcoming events you might be involved in, or make any sort of brief comments on anything. No council comments or inquiries? Okay. All right, so that will move us into number 6, motions and bylaws for council decision. So 6.2, number 1, we have a report from Director of Development and Operations regarding the Ontario Clean Water Agency 2018 Water Summary Report.
Through your worship, Ontario's drinking water regulation 17003, Schedule 22 requires a summary report for all municipal water systems to be prepared by March 31st of each year and submitted and received by council. Summary reports are different from the annual reports, which must be submitted by February 28th of the following year. That's under Section 11 of Reg 170. The Ontario Clean Water Agency is the operating authority for the town of Shelburne, and the town playing a supporting role in repairs of water main breaks and such and like. This report covers from January 1st, 2018 to December 30th, 2018, and fulfills the requirements under the regulation. The requirements are that the summary report contains quantities and flow rates of water supplied during the year and include monthly averages and maximum daily flows. A comparison of all noted flow rates and rated capacities of the system based on the ECA, or the Environmental Compliance Approval, the permit to take water, and the Drinking Water Works permit are all compared to make sure that everything is in check. A copy of the summary reports as well as the annual reports are available at no cost to the public, and they also are available on our website. The Appendix 1 is the report submitted by Aqua. The town and Aqua were reviewed by SAI Global for renewal of our certificate of accreditation to operate the system. That was February 2019. The new certificate was issued, and we're good on with an expiry date of March 3rd, 2022. The annual inspection by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks was conducted November 15th, 2018, and received a final rating of 100%. So the report did not cite any non-compliance issues with regulation requirements. However, the inspector did make 3 recommendations. Annual logbook training to improve documentation for departures from normal operating conditions and equipment that has ceased to operate. Additional sampling and testing should be undertaken, as the sampling is currently at its monthly limit. This is work on a population basis, so more population, you hit certain triggers, you have to do more microbiological sampling. And arsenic sampling is recommended to continue monthly in the distribution system until treatment system is installed at well 3. The additional sampling can be accommodated in our 2019 budget. And for the arsenic treatment, we have unfortunately just recently heard that we did not qualify for the OCIF funding. In fact, the whole program is canceled. This policy and implications, this brings us into compliance with our drinking water works permit, our environmental compliance approval, and the town's permit to take water.
Any questions for you? So the report indicates that we received a rating of 100%.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good, at least it was when I went to school.
And you're still here.
Yeah. All right, well, if there are no questions, I have a motion, be it resolved, council receives report PO 2019-05 from the Director of Development and Operations dated March 25th, 2019 for information purposes. A mover and a seconder for that. Councilor Donato, seconded by Councilor Keegan. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next up, we have a report from the clerk regarding the council member pregnancy and parental leave policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Bill 68 received royal assent May 1st. May 30th, 2017. It was tabled by the provincial government in November 2016. Bill 68 includes many amendments required by council, including this need for a pregnancy and parental leave for council members. So Section 259 of the Municipal Act provides that a member seat becomes vacant if the member is absent from council meetings for 3 successive months without being authorized to do so by council resolution. So prior to Bill 68, a member was required to obtain a resolution of council for an extended leave due to pregnancy, birth of a child, or adoption of a child. Bill 68 provides an exemption to the above noted provisions such that no resolution of council is required to grant an extended leave. The new policy meets the requirements of Bill 68 and includes provisions for members to be paid during their absence, that any other expenses normally paid should continue to be covered. Unlike municipal employees who are entitled to a maternity and pregnancy and/or parental leave through the Employment Standards Act, members of council are not employees of the municipality and are not eligible to collect employment insurance as a result. So Bill 68 provides coverage for that. Without a resolution of council, you can take up to 20 leaves, 20 days leave of absence.
Sorry, Jennifer. Does that provide for unemployment insurance? What did I hear correct?
No, you can't.
Even as a councillor, you still can't.
You're not an employee of the municipality.
Yeah.
You cannot collect through the town
No.
employment insurance, but your expenses will still be covered and paid by the municipality. So if you attend a conference, an educational seminar, your mileage, meals, accommodations will be covered. Previously, that would not have happened.
Can't pay a council for. I'm confused, but that's okay. The other question is, they still can Skype in to the meetings now?
You can Skype in.
Pregnancy leave?
That is also a change as a result of Bill 68. You can Skype into a meeting and participate in the discussion. The only thing you can't do is vote.
Right. But if you, like we've had in the past where you have medical leaves, those you still have to go to council, was it 3 meetings you said?
If you have a medical leave beyond these standards, you do require a resolution of council to be absent more than 20 days.
20 days, more than 2 weeks.
20 consecutive weeks, sorry. 20 consecutive weeks.
Oh, 20 consecutive weeks. Not 2 weeks.
So while currently financial impact is unknown, having the policy in place helps to ensure clarity and consistency in the interpretation and implementation of allowable expenditures and the use of corporate resources.
Okay.
So our low rate is supposed to be implemented by March 1st. We're in the month of March.
We're not alone. The motion be it resolved, the council receives report LS 2019-06, council member pregnancy and parental leave policy, and the council adopts the pregnancy and parental leave policy for members of council, being policy number 2019-01. Mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councilor Hall, seconded by Councilor Wagner. Any comments or questions for the clerk? All in favor? Clerk again for a report regarding council staff relationship policy.
Thank you, yes, thank you, your worship. So again, as a result of Bill 68, we are required to implement a council staff relationship policy. The new policy builds on individual roles, supports the spirit of a positive working relationship between council and staff, identifies that both staff and council are professionals who govern and direct town in different ways but are interdependent. The policy clearly identifies that the town functions best when council and staff are respectful of each other's roles, and if issues arise, informal discussions will be our starting point to resolve conflict. So currently we do have an appointed integrity commissioner. That integrity commissioner will deal with complaints resulting from anything resulting from the staff council relationship policy. It was the consultant that prepared the draft policy before you this evening, as it would be that person investigating the complaint. So although there are no financial figures associated with the approval of the policy, staff note that a properly worded policy based on best municipal practice can help aid in mitigating the cost for both the town staff and council members.
The motion reads, be it resolved, the council receives report LS 2019-07, council staff relationship policy, and the council adopts the council staff relationship policy being policy number 2019-02. Mover and seconder for that one. Councilor Hall, seconded by Councilor Buffett. Any comments or questions? All in favor? So we're now compliant.
Oh, compliant. Thank you. A little late.
All right, so contained in the agenda package is a letter from a resident, Energy Rule, requesting a flag raising ceremony for Sikh Heritage Month on April 1st. Did everybody see a copy of it? Okay. So there is sort of a draft motion embedded in the agenda there with dates left open. Does somebody want to move and second that to get it on the floor, and then we can discuss it? Moved by Councilor Buffett, seconded by Councilor Donato. Be it resolved, the council receives a letter from Energy Rule, and the council authorizes the raising of the flag to commemorate Sikh Heritage Month from April 1st to April blank, and that a flag raising be scheduled for April 1st at 10 o'clock a.m. The mover or seconder suggest an end date for that.
Is it for a month, I believe?
April 30th.
And April 30th could be out of it. That's why I think he requested. So, well, apply for
Yeah, I mean,
it's good policy because I'm sure that there's other groups that will come forward with time and ask council to raise flags on during the
and that's my only concern in terms of setting policy. If we leave a singular flag up for a full month, that will limit our ability to fly other flags. That's my only concern.
I have a comment. So I would suggest, in light of that, even though I don't know if there's really going to be a lot of conflict with respect to the rest of people coming around the same time, wanting to fly a flag for a month, but Maybe we could do it for a maximum of 3 days or a week, maybe a shorter time frame.
The CEO may have a comment to that.
To the deputy mayor's point, we realized when we provided the flag policy, which isn't that old, that it has 2 areas that need to be addressed, namely the length of time that council would support that, and it could be 1 or 2 options. Additionally, what we have to do as well is, and not that it would happen, but on windy days in Shelburne, that the responsibility of any damage to the flag is not that of the town, because flags can be exceptionally expensive, so it's sort of fly it at your own risk. But we think we'll amend the policy going forward to provide that kind of parameter to make it clear, because there are certain months where there's an exceptional amount of celebrations or memorials or endeavors that you may actually have people wanting their flag flown the same week. But now that we're doing this, so we'll come back, but that's a really good point, that we should limit the time.
I mean, I even wouldn't be opposed to even doing it for, I mean, it sounds ludicrous, maybe to the extreme, but I know I'm suggesting it's initially 3 days, but even 1, because it's a special occasion, it's ceremonial in nature, it's symbolic in nature, and I think to fly for a month would probably be a bit much. So even if we did it for a full day, to say that we're going to put it up for a full day, to recognize, celebrate the moment, you have the dignitaries there, members of the public, we raise it for a day, and after that, we take it down. I think mission's accomplished, quite frankly. But that's just a thought.
Just to go back, there was a request, I believe it came to the email for raising another flag.
Special Olympics.
For Special Olympics. Yeah, and when was that back?
24th.
That was supposed to happen today, however, they didn't get their request in time to obtain council approval.
So, thinking about that, that request can come forward in the next council meeting to fly that flag. So, I'm wondering, they cannot put up a flag without coming to council for a request. So if we limit it for between council meetings, because nobody can put up that flag without coming to council, so you got 2 weeks between each council meeting. So would that make common sense that we'll put up the flag for the 2-week period until the next request comes through at council, and then the flag goes down at that point? And then I'd also like to add to the motion that we notify the owner that the flag, any damage to the flag is at his own risk or whatever. Because I don't want to get caught with a $250 flag being damaged and the town being responsible for it. That's not fair.
In this particular instance, I think you're right. I mean, we're not realistically or practically going to get another request prior to April 8th.
Yeah.
But in general, I think we need to give a bit more thought to how long we want to fly, certain flags, so that if we do have multiple requests, we can accommodate as many as we can.
Yeah. And I think that's part of whatever comes forward with the policy that our CEO is suggesting.
So our next meeting is April 8th.
Yes.
They want the flag to go up April 1st. I would suggest maybe
April
to the
1st.
8th then.
To the 8th, yeah. And that's it.
No, but going
That's 7
forward.
days.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
In our policy, does it state whether or not the Canadian flag remains flying? Do we fly the flag, like the Canadian flag first, and then the, whatever flag is being requested underneath our national flag?
Through your worship, the policy states only 1 flag per pole. So our town of Shelburne flag is going to have to come down.
Okay.
Replace with that flag.
And then replace it with that?
We'd have to leave the Ontario and the Canada flag off.
Right, okay.
Councilor Fegan?
The only comment that I'd like to make, obviously, in this situation, it's not a big deal to have it fly for 2 weeks, but in cases where we have multiple requests, we don't know what's coming down in the future. Are we setting a precedent by setting the 2 weeks at this point?
We're saying it for 7 days.
For 7 days, sorry, for 7 days. Yeah.
So we don't have a policy.
Until we get a policy revision.
So I think the thought is, we'll let this one go for 7 days, but in the background, staff's going to work on a more fulsome policy to come forward and say what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just,
And we notified that owner about any damage to the flag as well as his responsibility.
so I'll reread the motion with Councilor Donato's addition. So be it resolved, the council receives a letter from MG Gruel and the council authorizes the raising of the flag to commemorate Sikh Heritage Month from April 1st to April 8th, and that a flag raising be scheduled for April 1st, ability for any damage which may occur to the flag. Any additional comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so next is a bylaw.
That would be a question for them.
All right, so the motion is be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 21-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the town of Shelburne to renew the court security and prisoner transportation agreement with Her Majesty the Queen. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Hall, second by Councillor Segan. Any comments or questions? All in favor? All right, so the next section is an opportunity for councilors to bring any notices of motion that they want to be considered at the next council meeting. I have one here moved by Councilor Donato, seconded by Councilor Buffett. Be it resolved that the town of Shelburne investigate with LAS the opportunity to offer the residents of Shelburne service line warranty and in-home plumbing repair program. So at the April 8th meeting, this motion will be put on the floor and the mover and seconder can speak to it and then we can have any discussion and vote on it. Councilor Wagner, did you have one as well?
Yeah, it's just reallocating.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Wagner, be it resolved the council approves the $10,000 previously allocated to the production of a tennis court / pickleball court to be reallocated back to providing soccer nets to the Shelburne Soccer Club, to provide protection from the sewage treatment plants, holding ponds, and the amount provided to the town's staff and council from a written letter of request and quote of the cost from the providing Canadian supplier by the Shelburne Soccer Club. Is there a seconder for that tonight, just to get a second by Councilor Fegan? So again, that will be addressed on April 8th. Sure. Okay, so the clerk has just advised that the soccer club will be here for a delegation at our April 29th meeting. And one more notice of motion moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Donato. Be it resolved, the council requests staff to review all former space planning considerations developed by the Police Accommodation Subcommittee. And be it further resolved, the staff provide a summary of this information for council to consider whether the Shelburne Police Services accommodation adequacy concerns could be satisfactorily addressed through a renovation and expansion of the current facility at a cost not exceeding $3 million. So again, that'll be raised at the April 8th meeting for discussion. All right, so on to communications. It's a list of 5 pieces of communication we've received. Motion reads, be it resolved, the council receives the items listed under 8.0 communications. So I have a mover and seconder for that. Councilor Donato, second by Councilor Hall. Anything that anybody wants to speak to individually in that list? Okay. Councilor Fegan?
The $500,000 that the one time that's being given to us, is that free to use wherever we need to, or is there stipulations within that?
I'll let the CAO address that.
So through mayor, there's no criteria under which it can be used. It's generic information. We're going to be bringing a report to you on April 8th that will address that because of the announcement that came days earlier that we were not getting our OCIF top up for well 3 in the arsenic mitigation, which was approximately $1.5 million of expected funding. So while there's flexibility in where you certainly apply those monies, we're certainly going to provide a recommendation to you on where you would consider applying that, and that would be, honestly, will be that project. Because the download, as the treasurer had outlined in the budget presentations, to borrow $1.5 million is not insignificant. So just wait until April the 8th for an overview of how that's going to impact
impact this community going forward.
So we found out that our OCIF top-up funding of 1.5 million roughly was being nixed by the province. I think the entire program was canceled, and then the following week they came out with an announcement that every municipality across the province was going to get sort of a smaller sum of money. Our share of that is slightly over 500,000, so we lost $1.5 million on one hand, and then they gave us 500,000 in return. I guess some municipalities who didn't qualify for the OCIF top-up are winners in this because they're getting new money that otherwise wouldn't have been allocated to them, but as far as we're concerned, we're sort of losers in the whole mix in this round, so. All right, any other comments or questions on communications? All in favor? Carried. So we're just going to change the agenda slightly. We'll move the confirming bylaw until after we're done the closed session. I'm not sure if, okay. Yeah, so we're moving too fast, believe it or not. So our consultant that's here for the closed session is supposed to be here at 8:15.
Take a break.
Yeah, so I guess we'll take another recess for 15 minutes and until she gets here, be here before 8:15, we reconvene early.